Hi everyone, Jason here. Today we're going to talk about Amiibo. Now, as you probably already know, Amiibos are collectible figurines that Nintendo has released. Started off with their Super Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS series. They also covered games like Kirby's Rainbow Curse, Yoshi's Woolly World, and then also a fairly large series for the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival game. So, as you probably also know, there are games like Skylanders and Disney Infinity, but it happened, I think, last year where Skylanders and their Supercharger game paired up with Nintendo to create amiibos based on some of their franchise characters. So we're going to talk about those ones. And they're kind of bad. First off, we're going to take a look at the Donkey Kong Skylanders slash amiibo. This one, as far as like the design aspect goes, is not terrible. It's a pretty accurate pose for what I would imagine Donkey Kong would look like in action. The odd thing is just his jumpsuit. I don't quite understand why he has to be wearing it. I think Donkey Kong does just fine with his trademark red tie, but the yellow jumpsuit, it just doesn't make quite that much sense. I mean, it is cool that when you actually turn this little dial, it turns from a Skylander to Amiibo, and so it's got dual functionality. But as far as like the actual build of these things, I mean, little bits of issues with painting, and then coloring is a little bit weird, and then just the actual build quality and plastic of these is not really that great. I mean, but this isn't actually the worst one. This one is actually pretty passable in comparison to some of the other things. So, in comparison, here's the actual original release Donkey Kong. So this one is the one that they released alongside Super Smash Bros. And so, as you can tell, I mean, he's in a pretty classic pose. DK's tie is nice and waving in the wind, but he looks pretty good. Coloration for him is great. I mean, there are some issues with detail like around his eyebrow ridge, but as far as that goes, I mean, texture wise, he's fantastic. I mean, he actually looks like he would in those games, and it's pretty darn good. All right, so we're gonna put these guys aside. So let's talk about the next one. So the next one was Bowser. So this one I found absolutely horrendous. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, gaps around his actual face and mouth. I mean, the fact that his neck looks oddly fat from this side. And then there's things like they couldn't even align the shell correctly on his back to match his like arm and shoulder pads. And then there's the fact that he's got his hammer and it rests against his leg, but obviously it was too close to his leg. So they made an indent where his leg goes so that the hammer can rest against it. And it's just like, why was that even necessary? I mean, Bowser does look better in clothing in as compared to the Donkey Kong one, because like at least like the armor plates, it makes a bit of sense for Bowser, but it just, I don't know, it's just the build quality on this is just absolutely awful. And then I think there was some bad issues with the eyes as far as painting goes. And then when you compare that to things like the Super Smash Bros. Bowser amiibo, I mean, obviously Bowser has a good presence, and like the way that this one was put together is a lot more solid. I mean, yeah, there are seams and lines and things like that, as is to be expected. I mean, there's a big seam across the mouth of these, and then these are where the joins in the amiibos on and a shell actually happens, and like you can actually see some gaps in this one. So out of the two Bowsers that I have, this is probably the best example of where they actually missed some of the seams. But for the most part, most of the actual Nintendo amiibos, they always end up pretty darn good. And then in another comparison, this is the Super Mario Party Bowser amiibo. So, I mean, in between these two, you can tell they have a different stance. This one's supposed to look angry and aggressive. This one's supposed to be a little bit more on the playful, cartoony side. And it definitely works. I mean, these are very cool amiibos. I liked the way that they actually did the shells and everything like that. I don't know. Their character presence when it comes to making amiibos is actually quite good. So lastly, I'm going to talk about the part of the Skylanders amiibos that I actually do like, and that's that they came with vehicles. As Skylanders Supercharged was all about individual vehicles and powering up the vehicles when you paired them with the correct driver. it, you know, it was a very cool idea. And the vehicles themselves, although, I mean, this one, it's not really anything that I would consider canon. I'd probably either make it like a cannon barrel with wings, or I would make it like a minecart, which I think this is supposed to be a lot like, but it just, I feel like it deviates a little bit too much from what Donkey Kong would actually drive. But as far as it goes, I mean, it's got moving wheels. That's fantastic. I mean, why not? It means you can actually play with it outside of the actual game, if you're into that sort of thing. But it actually looks really good. I like the paint job on it. Like, the paint job, I mean, it's definitely meant to match his jumpsuit. But in this case, like, it doesn't look out of place to me. Like, it actually looks like it fits. So that one's not too bad. And then the other one, the one that I actually really like, is Bowser's Clown Plane. Now, of course, it would have been very cool if they could have actually just done his clown car as it is in Super Mario World. But I think they wanted to make it a little bit more interesting for the actual game style. So they went with a plane, which it makes sense. And I actually do really like this. I don't know why this has to be like a semi-transparent white, but you know, that's okay. I mean, there are some paint issues on both of them. Like, it's just easy to scuff. But as far as like that goes, color is great. I like the slightly pearlescent green, and the gold works well too. But it's a good example of the fact that they can actually do good work. It's just the actual characters themselves are a little bit lacking. I ended up waiting to pick up these characters purely because, like, I want to collect all the Amiibo, but I saw these ones and it's like, yes, they are technically like half Amiibo, but I waited until they were on sale, and I got them at the cheapest price I possibly could before I actually picked them up. I wasn't even sure that I was going to buy them in the first place. But anyway, have you come across any quality issues when it comes to Amiibos? Like, do you think that these actually fit into the Amiibo line? I mean, there's always like those trading cards for Amiibos now too, for the Animal Crossing series. There's like 6 waves of those, each with like, I want to say like 100 cards, or at least 100 cards in the first series. And it's like, while I want to collect all of them, it's like, do they really count into like that main Amiibo collection? Anyway, let me know what you think down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye! I don't know about you, but when I see an army of quote-unquote dragon-type Pokemon being led by a sharp-dressed business Pikachu, when they suggest that you like this video and subscribe for updates on new content, I would certainly do what they say.